For those who have not attended a Dirigal Labs speaker series, this event is where founders and leaders share insight on how they overcame challenges, capitalize on their target market, and develop their product, providing you with actionable insight for your own products and processes. This free event is presented by Dirigal Labs and is sponsored by Valley Beverage, the Harold Alphon Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, and Bricks Co-working and Innovation Space. This conversation is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. And this evening's conversation is presented by Chuck Donnelly, CEO of Rockstep Solutions. In this speaker series, Chuck will discuss how Rockstep Solutions collaborates with scientists, academia, and nonprofits to aggregate data, empowering researchers to accelerate discoveries and drive impactful outcomes.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. You know, it's really great to be here. This is my third time here. First time I shared with my co-founder, business partner, who really my right hand. You know, I want to say we're almost married. You know, we're married as business partners. You know, and we really are. We're just been together doing this for so many years. But she's now so busy traveling in Europe, selling our product, doing all the things that we want her to be doing. She couldn't be here, so she sends her regrets. Julie Morrison. I'm Chuck Donnelly, the co-founder with Julie of Rockstep Solutions. So, and I want to thank you guys for inviting me back. This is my third year here, I think. So it's really exciting. I was you many years ago, and somebody said that they started 3 years ago and still early. You are still early. I'm on year 10.
Yeah.
And I think, we're getting close. We're still startup. There's no question about it. Startup is a long journey. Some people might exit sooner or whatever. But one of the things I want to say before I get started here is that there is so much that you learn in this journey that it is like getting a PhD over the course of 10 years. And I'm just going to scratch the surface of this. And so questions, bring them out, stop me anytime. I'm happy to answer questions, dive deeper, because there really is just so much that we've learned in the process. I'm going to start out with a few slides just to kind of get everybody's mind in the space that we're in. And then I'm going to go through and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to kind of give you the excitement and the terrifying experiences that happen along the way, because startup is not for the faint of heart. It really is not. And every year has lots and lots of, I say it's a book, right? And it's a book with, fires burning everywhere and near-death experiences and shootouts and all this stuff. But at the same time, there's all this excitement and really cool stuff that's happening. And that's the world of startup. At least it is for me, and it depends on the kind of startup you do. And so then I'll take you through that little journey. I'll tell you a little bit about our company, and then some things at the end that were really helpful for me and for us when we started to put together our company, what it looks like, and just some really important concepts or things to think about so you stay focused on your journey. So I love this quote from Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman, masters of scale, founder of LinkedIn. We jumped off a cliff and started assembling the plane on the way down. And this is really kind of what we did. And right now, we got the wings built, we got a fuselage and the engine built, we got some gas in the engine. We're still trying to get some more gas in the engine, and we're trying to get the plane to really take off and go into orbit. But there's a lot of good reason to think that we're getting there. This slide's blank. I don't know why, because it's not blank on my screen here. See, it's not blank here. I don't know which. Add note. Oh, maybe it's a. Yeah. Oh, it somehow got it animated. I don't know why. Anyway, okay. So when I first started Rockstep, be honest with you, I didn't know what a CEO was. My background is I was director of computational sciences at Jackson Laboratory, and the world was changing. When I was looking at all these opportunities, I was funded by the NIH. And so I wrote a grant to the NIH, and we can talk about that if anybody's interested in understanding how you write grants. And wrote a grant to the NIH and got the grant and said, oh my, now I'm in trouble. Now I got to actually do this thing. And one of the things was I talked to a CEO who was 5 years ahead of me, and she said, here's what you got to know. This is like, just remember these 3 things. Don't run out of money. That's your first That's the most important thing. Don't run out of money. Build a great team and culture. So you're gonna be getting people on the bus. You got to get the right people on the bus, and you got to get the wrong people off the bus. And that sometimes is really, really hard to do, because sometimes you have to make difficult choices to get people off the bus. But once you got the right team on the bus, you ask them where to go. You set the long vision, but you get the experts on the bus with you on your team, and they're going to tell you how to get to your milestones. So really focus on great team, because you can't do it yourself. And then focus on product market fit. So all along, when we started, we had this great idea, but we didn't really know how the market would, how it would fit into the market. We thought we knew, and we were sort of right, but we really didn't know. So that was a big area of focus for us. You need a co-founder who, you need a co-founder, period. If you're doing this alone and you're going to get very much beyond a really, really small startup, you need a co-founder. This is where my business partner, Julie, came in. And I was looking for somebody who was so different from me. Cognitive diversity is really good. If you're like me, if you're co-founder, if you both watch sci-fi movies and play video games, and you're both into tech and writing programs, probably not good co-founders. You want somebody who is just completely different, because they're going to challenge you. And I like to talk about Julie, because the best co-founder disagrees with me every day, and she does. But we know how to resolve. It's constructive conflict. It's challenging your idea. So you're not just looking for a fish on the moon. You're actually going and doing something important that takes you where you want to go.
Can you give up just a quick synopsis on how you found Julie, or when you started?
Yeah, it was dumb luck, and I will say, she and I are really great partners. We really get along really well. We've been doing it together for, almost a decade now. I needed a co-founder partner. I talked to somebody, and that somebody said they would put out something on Facebook asking their friend if anybody knew of any, that kind of thing. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, so my phone rang. I didn't really think of putting it out on Facebook. My phone rang, and it was Julie. She called up. I had never met her before. And she said that she was interested in maybe working with us, and she had a background in microbiology, and she had been raising her children for a while, and she wanted to get back into the lab. And so I was in Bar Harbor at the time. I drove down to Portland, and it was kind of weird, because I drove down to Portland and I interviewed her, and she said, "Yeah, it sounds really interesting." I said, "Well, I don't really have any money." And when I knew it was going to be good, because she said, "Oh, that's okay." Okay, we're in, So to be honest with you, I didn't have any money, but I had stock, I had equity, I had, things that we could share. And that's what you have when you when you're doing a startup. If you are trying to hoard your equity, then you're never going to get anywhere. You got to just say, "Look, I got 100% of something now, and I start giving this equity out to investors and, co-founders and employees and all of that." You're going to have a much smaller percent of a much better thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, it was really lucked out. So
what year was that?
What's that?
What year was that?
2016.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We met at Bard. Or coffee. Okay, so these are the things that after, like when Julie and I were first getting started here, we said, well, what are we passionate about? And because our platform can do a lot, but we got to make sure we're doing something that we're passionate about, because that's the way we'll be successful. So we're passionate about getting cures to market faster. That's really why we get up in the morning. And I have some actually kind of personal stories around that, which I won't go into, but what can you be best in the world at? And I had come from Jackson Lab, and my background was in vivo science. And I had a background in this kind of in vivo, which means in life studies. And so I had a background in this. So, and, NIH had funded me for this. So, it was not just like, I like to do this, but so that's what we can do best. We are right now best in the world at bringing in vivo solutions to the market. At the beginning, you need to say, what can we be best in the world at? Not what you are best in the world at, but you gotta think, can we be best in the world at this? The other thing is what will drive your economic engine. So that's really important. Is it are we going to develop software for companies? Or are we going to develop SaaS software, self-subscription licenses, and use the subscription licenses to be our engine? And that's what we decided. So this I call our three-ring binder. It's what holds us together. And all the opportunities that come in, we measure them against this. So as an example, we've had opportunities from big companies saying, develop us in vivo software that, we keep, that the company keeps, right? But we don't do that. We don't develop software for you. We look at our three-ring binder. It's not subscription licenses, which drives our economic engine. It might be $1 million worth of contract work, but that's not what we do. So, but it's very tempting. I walked away from $1 million deal that way. And it's like, can we really afford to do that? Any questions? Any other? Okay. So when you decide that one of the things that you're going to have along this journey is self-doubt. So a lot of times you're going to say, man, this is crazy. And maybe it is. You have to really find out, is this a fool's errand, or are you still on a mission to change the world, right? Because that's what you really want to be. And it can be very sobering if you realize that you're on a fool's errand, but sometimes it's really hard to know because you're working so hard and you're getting so much, you're getting positive feedback, but you're also getting a lot of things thrown at you. And I'll show you, I'm going to go through some of that in a second. Okay, so I don't know why there's an animation here, but there is. I must have pressed the animation button. I didn't realize it. So anyway, so this is our story that I'm going to go through here. And it's about helping getting cures to market faster. That's what we're passionate about. And it's about grit and determination, because that's what it's going to take. That's what it's been taking us to do this. And it's from startup to scale. Along the way, we had lots and lots of things thrown at us. My early team is no longer here. When I met Julie, that's when we formed and really moved forward. I started, the first team came together in 2015 and met Julie in 2016. And so we had that early team breakup. That was really hard. That might have dissolved the company then, but nope, I've got Julie, we worked together, we're gonna build this thing. Then, pandemic, like who would have thought, right? And we're gonna get hit by a pandemic. Had literally March, I think, was it last year? I was on the bus ride home. I had just given a talk in Boston, and my accountant was calling me up, get all your money out of Silicon Valley Bank. We had all of our money in Silicon Valley Bank. Not all of it. We had enough for the next payroll in a local bank. Bank failure. Then last year, 2023, we're in the biotech, health sciences market. That whole market collapsed last year. The biotech market collapsed after COVID. There was big bubbly, tons of money got invested in it. The market collapsed last year. And basically the capital markets, there were like, in 2021, there was 122 IPOs, and in 2022, there was 27, and 2023, there was 12 or something. There was a big market collapse. Now, don't quote me on those numbers specifically, but it was something along those lines. Now it's starting to pick back up. We had government shutdowns. I had money that was depending on the government staying afloat. And I don't know if you remember last year, there was a government shutdown. I don't even want to tell you how much sleep I lost over that, because the money was waiting for them to fund the government. So lots of near-death experiences. And that's what I'm gonna, that's part of the excitement. So so what do we do? So Climb is a SaaS collaboration platform for managing in vivo operations and data. And that was kind of what I muddled through when I was saying before. I wasn't quite ready to say it, but that one statement was so important for us to figure out, because that's what we do. And like I said, I used to actually, people would ask me what we do, and I started saying, well, we manage animals and we manage, lab people, and they're doing all this work and experiments and getting drugs. And they say, well, what do you do? And that's really what it comes down to. So boiling it down to a really, really concise thing is what you need to do. And it's SaaS, it's in the cloud, it's collaboration suite. So lots of people can work in it. It's for managing in vivo, that's in life science for drug discovery, and it's managing the operations. So all the stuff that's going on in the laboratory and the data collection. That's really what we do.
And nothing, what existed before?
So that's a great question. there's, I love this question because it's not like there was nothing before.
Yeah.
There's a ton of point solutions. So our tip, when we bring our application in, we might replace up to 25 different point solutions. So one of the things that you can do, if you find anybody using an Excel spreadsheet, say, what are you using that for? Because you can start a business to replace that.
Yeah.
So a lot of Excel spreadsheets, Google Docs, emails, share folders, and then there's, scheduling software, there's software for data capture, there's software, and then the data scientists spend about 80% of their time wrangling the data. And so we bring in a SaaS collaboration suite, we spin it up quickly, and we train the users how to do it, and then we go to the next customer. Now, I made that sound a little simpler than it is because it's still, depending on the size of the organization, we will sometimes spend a year on a rollout with them. Okay, so I'm just putting this up to kind of put it in context. So we are in drug discovery. So drug discovery is, it's basically a 10 to 15-year process, has a bunch of these phases. I'm not going to go through all the phases, but it costs about $2.5 billion to get a drug from an idea to market on average. It's an enormous amount of money, and that's just to get to market. And then there's another $2 billion to actually market it. And, so drug companies are spending a massive amount of money there. And there's a phase in there called the in vivo phase. And that's where they're studying the drugs in life, okay? Before they go into human clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's where our software fits. And we know it fits in there. Like we are only in there. There are people that are trying to solve the problem all over the place. One of the things we did is we came up with that 3-ring binder, said, this is what we can do best. And now I believe this is what we do best. So that's kind of where we fit in the market. And that's that product market fit. Be honest with you, when I started this, I came from more of an academic lab. And in academia, it's a very different thing. Academic labs do use our software, but it's not, this is really our major market, is in drug discovery. Academic, but we have some really good academic labs.
Where does the patent clock start for a lot of the new drugs? Because if you can shorten the time in the market, it's just absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a really great thing. So the value, so what's the value that we bring, right? It's really trying to shorten, to speed up that phase, right? Time to market. So there's a couple of things. Patent clock is ticking, and I don't know exactly where it starts, but I was talking to one the other day. They said, oh, we only got 10 years left on our patent clock, right? And they're nervous about it because they don't, it's 17 years, I think, when you start or something, and they only got 10 years and they haven't got to market yet. So we're trying to help speed that to market. The other thing is every day a drug is in the market, it's $1 million worth of revenue for the pharmaceutical company. So, anywhere from $1 million to several million, depending on the drug. So that's why they're buying our software, because they want to speed to market. So this is for any scientists that really know much about this, is kind of just a description of, on the right-hand side, there's a bunch of these personas in this little Ferris wheel, and that kind of shows who we were targeting. And that's where I think you were asking, what are we replacing, right? So they would all be using different software and maybe even several different applications. So the scientists would be designing their studies in Excel, and then they would email it to somebody. And everybody knows that spreadsheets are like cockroaches of biomedical data. You start emailing them around, they get lost, there's no control over them. And so we're putting it all into this centralized data store. Data are harmonized, and the scientists can know where to go to get it. And everybody, they have full visibility, situational awareness, what's going on in the research lab, and they can, so see what the status is now, and they can go back and get the data later. So there's a whole, we could talk about that a lot. But anyway, so it's the scientists and the lab technicians, the animal caretakers, the veterinarians, everybody's working in one collaboration suite.
So more of a question about the way the software is set up. Do you do is it data on-prem or is it on cloud? And
In the
do
cloud.
you offer the cloud service, or is it built on AWS or something?
It's in Azure, and it's only in the cloud.
Okay.
Yep. Now we have a number of different cloud deployment packages. So we have the sort of standard package where we have these big database pools And everybody has their own database, but it's like a pool of databases and they share the resources. And then the big biopharmaceutical companies, when they say, well, we want our own sort of resource pool, so we give them a separate resource, but it's one, we have literally have one application, one code base. And right now we have about 60 customers using it.
And they don't necessarily have any issue with it being in the cloud, they never insist on it being on-prem.
Well, that's also a really good question. When we started this, everybody was telling me you're on a fool's errand because nobody's going to use the cloud. Now now most of the pharmaceutical companies have cloud first policy. They've moved to the cloud. The cloud is recognized as secure, and there's plenty of ways of deploying really securely in the cloud. So that problem seems to have gone away. But the challenge is that the security audits that we have to go through in order to put their data in the cloud are immense. We are basically constantly going through security audits with customers. Yeah.
And for those security audits, are they being conducted by third parties that are retained by the customer, or is it the customer's internal teams that are doing this combination?
Most of them so far have been third-party audit questionnaires, and then they come back and they interview you and ask lots of questions, but we've not been like, they haven't, they're satisfied after they go through all the questions, and it's third-party doing the audit for the customer, right? We just went through a white hat pen testing for one of our customers where they send the white hat hackers. You don't know where they're outside or not, you don't know, and they hack into your system, or they try to, and then they give you a report, and they found, they find things, and it's good because it helps us button up our software. But it's pretty scary because they spend a lot, and they found some surprising things, things that were not critical in the sense that the security, what you had to be inside the soft or inside the company already to exploit some of the things that they were able to get at. But now we button them up. So here's our journey. 2024 now, 2011, I think, 2012, something like that. 2013, we're just starting to imagine like what could be different. We had all kinds of different ideas. I had a background in this in vivo, computational science and in vivo, and I had a background in developing software for in vivo research. So the idea started to come together, and then we went through this. Here we are in 2024. 2013 wrote a grant to NIH, and I'll go through all of these years in a little bit of detail. But basically, it's been a long journey. So 2013, 2014, this is really when I wrote the grant in 2013. Innovative ideas, did a lot of technology research, early founder team, which ended up not working out. Are we ready? Grant writing, went to Top Gun. And that was really great. Just getting that sort of Top Gun energy. And we got the NIH grant approved. I got a phone call, and then, so I quit my job. I was at Jackson Lab. I had a great job at Jackson Lab. And so my wife said, "Are you sure? Like, you could just tell them you don't want the grant, and I was like, no, I want to do this crazy thing. So I quit my job at Jax, and then I got a call from NIH saying that it was going to be postponed. And
I've heard this like a couple times.
it was an administrative glitch.
Yeah.
It was the stupidest thing. We had changed our corporate structure, and that created, and they said, well, because it's near the end of the fiscal year, it's going to take an act of Congress to approve a new budget. I'm like, great, an act of Congress to do anything. And this was in 2014. So finally it got, Congress passed a continuing resolution, finally got the award in December 2014, really started in 2015. So, but this was sort of getting it started. So the remit from the grant is build a prototype basically in NIH's SBIRs. And then the idea is you're gonna build a prototype, you're gonna prove this thing out a bit, and then you're gonna go for phase 2. And the phase 2 is a big one. The SBIR phase 1 is 215,000, 225,000. Phase 2 is like 1.5 million.
They just upped it, so it's 306 for phase 1 and 2 million for phase 2.
Yeah.
now.
Good, yeah, and that's, inflation, makes sense. And it seems like an enormous amount of money. I was like, we don't have that yet in the story, right? I'm still like on the 215,000, but MTI development loan, you guys, I'm sure know, MTI's probably been here. They've been really great. We managed to get a development loan. That was not easy though. So, it was a lot of work. It wasn't like, oh, here's the development loan, you got the grant. One of the key things that happened here in 2015 is that at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, there was a Nobel laureates lab that knew of my work from Jackson Lab. And somebody from UCSF called me and said, hey, we're interested in what you're doing. We've heard about this and we have a need. And we became partners. That also took a year to actually get the contract work signed on that partnership, but that was huge. This is Dr. Prusner. He's got 150 people in his research lab. He's the one who discovered prions and mad cow disease and all that, whatever, working on right now on Alzheimer's. Anyway, huge partnership. One of the things that you really want to focus on early is get some partnerships together because they're going to help you validate your market fit, help you come up with your requirements, and also help your credibility in the industry. They actually contracted with us and paid us to build the application to their spec, which was what everybody's was doing anyway. So wasn't doing it just for their lab, but we owned all the IP. So that was a really awesome collaboration, and we still work with them. In fact, one of our bigger customers right now. And that collaboration went on for, literally was a collaboration until just 2 years ago or something.
Was it that partnership that enabled you to get that loan or?
No, we got the loan first from the grant allowed us to get the DL loan. Yeah, because I think the DL loan required a match and the grant was the match. So they really was a good, and so once we got the DL loan, we had almost, $500,000 to start. And it seems like an enormous amount of money, but it's not. We burned through it really quickly. But we also wrote the NIH grant phase 2. I started writing it almost immediately. So in 2016 through 2019, this was a real key period for us. So I found, met Julie. That's when we really became a partner. It dissolved the early team, came up with a real commercial plan, got the NIH phase 2 grant, which I will just say was also just brutal. I the whole story in itself of getting denied, approved, denied, maybe, yes, you got it. And then, 3 weeks later and, running out of money, we actually got the grant funded on the week that our payroll was running. And I had $10,000 in the bank. Oh no, I had $200 in the bank, and the payroll wasn't that big then. And I had $10,000 payroll. The money got into the bank payroll ran on Thursday. I looked at the bank Thursday morning, got up, checked. There was money in the bank from NIH at like 8:00 a.m. and payroll ran at 9 or something like that. It was like, an hour, we can do this, right? Talk about near-death experiences, and that is the actual true story. And yeah, so lots of sleepless nights, lots of running around talking to investors, trying to figure out how to make this work. But the other thing that happened in this time period where when Julie joined, we decided that we really needed to focus on the drug discovery because that's really where we're going to build a business. Academia is hard to build a business in because they're pretty price sensitive. So Julie pulled together a team from Novartis, UCSF, and a large public biotech, and said, basically got these 3 organizations together and said, we're gonna build the next generation of this. You guys all need it, you know, and this was a lot of work to find those three. And we're gonna have you give us the input. And the idea is that we're gonna build this for the commercial market rather than just the academic market. And so for a period of about 3.5, 4 years, Julie worked gathering the requirements. We had tech team working on the build. We had the money from NIH and we're working, and it was going great. And we had a product. We're getting ready to release the product. We went through an accelerator at Nextcube in San Diego, and we had some early adopters. So things were really going good. We were pretty skimpy on money, and we were getting ready to release our product. I think it was June 2020 was when we were going to release it. And in March, the pandemic hit. Our investors that we had lined up to help us with this release, everybody was excited, you know, checks are coming next week, you know, everything vanished. Everything vanished. We were so close to being out of money. We scrambled, we didn't quit. We got a PPP loan. We didn't have a big payroll at this point. We got a PPP loan. We ended up getting 2 of those. We got, you know, we managed to get some investors to jump in. Lots of excitement in this period. So with phase 2 grant, I put in here under the excitement, phase 2 grant denied, phase 2 grant accepted. One of our investors sent a check, and this was another near-death experience because he sent us a check and I was waiting for it and thinking I got to run payroll. And finally I called him up, said, did you send that check? I'm trying to be polite, you know, like, hey, you know, how you doing? You know, want to get together. Oh, by the way, you sent the check. He said, yeah, I sent it last week. I said, did? Where'd you send it? He said, send it to the address that your attorney told us to send it to. I said, what address is that? It was the wrong address. Now, the thing is at this time, all bills were in the mail still. This was a while ago. Now everything would be electronic. Our attorney never sent his bill to the wrong address. He never gave the wrong address to his assistant that was sending the bill, but he gave it the wrong address. So I had to go find the check at the wrong address, get it to the bank, get it in before payroll. Whew. Had you know, almost a half a day to spare there. But anyway, so it's really exciting. We also had another thing that was happening. I was working on a big partnership that failed, and so there's all these things that are going on, you know, that you're working on that you think are going to happen, and there's always something that gets in the way, and you're always struggling with that. But 2020. This is where the pandemic hit, right? So, and I sort of already told part of this. So pandemic hit, we got, you know, we were weeks away from getting funding. Everybody ran away. And the problem was then we couldn't go to conferences. We had conferences lined up. Well, conferences shut down. We couldn't, how are you going to even let everybody know you got this product? You're trying to do digital marketing. Everything moved onto the internet. It was just a total mess. But, and our cash flow was dangerously low, but we did get the PPP loan, and that actually, and some investors came in and rescued us with small amounts of money to get us through 2020. 2021, this is when it really started to feel like things are turning around. I had an investor, really important investor that was very experienced, had a business just like ours. He had actually just exited his business similar to ours and had exited for $740 million. And so he had a big wad of cash in his back pocket. And he would, you know, he got in touch and we got a big commercial opportunity. We got a big partnership with another company. You know, we're starting to build out our product, and, you know, we had a big 4x revenue jump because you know, with COVID, everybody was starting to do this kind of research, and that was part of the COVID bubble. And we were really planning for scale up. We put together a mature board of directors, and things were starting to really look up. We were just getting through the pandemic. Everybody's still kind of wearing masks around, but and then we started to scale up. So 2022 was really a pretty good year for us, mostly. Although the underlying fundamentals in the market were starting to fracture. This is when the biotech market was first starting to collapse. But we got Series A funding. We raised 5 or 6 million. We built teams. We have our financial systems are now GAAP compliant. We, got our product sales team up and running, a lot of process improvement. We got a big global contract for $6 million over a number of years, but it was a big contract with a big global company. We got $6 million in financing, and we did walk away from an acquisition offer, which was really hard to do because I could have put a check in my back pocket at that point. Maybe that was a mistake. But we walked away from it because we got the financing. Basically, we had in front of us an acquisition offer, which would have been okay. Or we had investors saying, we got $6 million, let's grow the company.
Were you both in agreement initially, you and Julie, or did one of you want to take the acquisition and one of you didn't? Or?
It was a lot of conversations about it. So one of the things that factored into our decision was actually, I would have done the best in that acquisition as the original founder. Julie, at that point, didn't have quite as much stock in the company because she came in a little bit later, and our team wouldn't have done as well. And we felt like we wanted to care for each other a bit. And so that was a collective decision. But we also, it was the idea, the excitement of like getting real financing and like, let's do what we started out to do was really exciting. And so we took the money, and that's when we started to scale up and expand. So now we're in 2023. This is last year. Now this is where the biotech market collapsed last year. It became really noticeable. It's like, where is all their customers? They're talking to us, but they're laying off. They're, and we started to look at the XBI index, and it's going down. And so it was really scary. And one of our big investors is a global corporation. It was an equity financing, but it was a strategic. And they said, boy, the market is just in terrible shape right now. And so, this was, even though like all excitement, $6 million is like, we're up here and now we're like, oh my God, how are we going to make this happen? But we did a lot of work. There was a lot of growth. We managed to get through 2023 with a little bit of growth. A lot of companies failed in that time, laid off a lot. But we also opened a European subsidiary. So we actually have a wholly owned subsidiary in Europe right now, which is in the UK. And that business is now really just closing our first really big biopharma deal in Europe, actually sort of like right now. I mean, we are, in 2 weeks away from signing a, multi-million-dollar contract, I think $3.7 million contract. So, that's really scary. You set up a subsidiary in Europe. And so this really complicates everything, all your finances, the whole organization, especially the financials are really complex when you're dealing with a multinational corporation and the law that we have to have HR over there. We have a legal team over there. We have accountants over there, and we have an office and address and, and staff. So not a lot of staff. We're just 2 people over there right now. So, but the biotech market collapsed. We had a big contract put on hold because of that biotech market. They just said, look, we can't do this. So this was like, okay, we'll pull that out of our cash. You have all these things in your cash flow, and then you realize that they're not going to happen. But we raised a $3 million bridge at that point. So to this point, to the end of last year, we had raised about $14 million to get to here. It's a pretty substantial amount of money. And the reason why with a SaaS business like ours, there's a lot of infrastructure. It scales really nicely, but you have to put a lot, we have a support team. And you have to have a support team before you even really have customer. I mean, you fake it for a while, and we're doing a bit of that still, but you have a support team, you have a tech team, you have a security team, you have a quality team. We actually have literally a quality manager that just does nothing but manage quality. We have sales team, commercial team, multinational. So there's an enormous amount of money to have this infrastructure. And now the idea is you scale on top of that. So that's why it costs so much to build the company.
Curiosity, what's your release cycle?
Which what?
What's your release cycle for production?
So it's around 2 months we release. And some of our customers, we have one code base. And we release to most of our customers about every 2 months. But some of the customers, bigger customers, won't tolerate that many releases, so we have to release to them every 6 months or so. But it's the same code, you know, they're on their own resource group. So now here we are, 2024. Again, we have a quality program. We went through a massive audit, just literally a 3-day audit. Where, you know, our quality manager, and in audits, they bring in people, they ask questions, show me this. What is this person working on? Ask that person to come in the room and tell us, you know, where their SOP is, how do they, you know, and so we put a lot of prep work into it. We got a really great score on it. There was one finding, and there was, you know, a couple of observations. One finding, which was, you know, we have to respond to and fix, and I don't remember exactly what it was. They were really impressed by it, and that's for this big tier 1 company that we're about to close in 2 weeks. So, and we went through this big security penetration test. So things are going pretty good. We're raising capital again because you basically, that's what I do. My first remit was don't run out of money. So yesterday I got a nice exciting call from somebody saying, yep, I'm interested in investing. So, you know, that's what I'm doing. So I'll stop there, and then I want to just talk a little bit about capital raising. But first, before I do that, who here is not trying to raise capital? Okay, maybe that's the wrong question. Who here is trying to raise capital? Okay, that's the right question.
Get online folks too, right?
And online, right? Yeah, so raising capital is really, really, really hard. There's gonna be, you know, I always say 100 no's to 1 yes. And the no's are really, really important because some of them are noise. I mean, some investors will you get different stuff from different people, and some of, you know, some of you got to filter out, but there are some patterns in what you're hearing, like, and you got to find those patterns because they're the things that all the investors really want you to fix in order to raise money. So it's really, really hard. So when you get the Series Seed is your angel investors, usually, you know, it's 250,000, maybe $1 million. But it's a small amount of money, and you're basically gonna use that money to validate your product, build your early prototypes, evaluate your market size, develop your value problem, you know, find your product market fit. So somebody was saying that they thought we were doing, I think it was you, right? You thought it was gonna be B2C and now it's B2B. Yep.
Yeah, I think ultimately I started the business because I wanted to help family
Right.
members, you know, so I have a private practice and my clients are all impacted loved ones. And so I just was like, well, I want to build something for them that they can use and it's really accessible and it's, you know, an app. It's not cheap to build, but I thought I could build it on a third party application, and that's going fine, and have them pay a small subscription fee. But as you know, like it's just, that's not scalable.
Right.
And if I'm trying to help the millions of people that are affected by substance use disorder, it's way bigger than me being a.
Right, yeah. And I think that's part of the product market fit for us. When we first had our product, I was my background was kind of in academia. Jackson Lab is basically the way university is doing research. And I didn't really understand how the pharmaceutical industry was using it. And we had to figure out not only how they're using it, but what are their pain points? Where does it fit in? And it took years of working with them to really get product market fit.
Kind of in line with that, you said that a lot of what you do now is really, I mean, it's of course not, but chasing capital, raising capital. That certainly changes what you do and what your interest was when you started the business, because you started your business around what you were interested in, what
Right.
you knew about. How does that conflict work for you? Where do you stand on it? Did you grow to like the work that you do now? Do you miss what you used to do, what you got you into that the first push?
Yeah, that's such a great question. You know, one thing is being an entrepreneur, you need to be a continuous learner and you have to be excited about just learning new things. And so when I started this, I didn't know what a CEO was. I really didn't, you know, and I said, well, I'm the CEO, and I printed out a business card and I went to Google, what's a CEO? You know, okay, now I got that down, I can move on, right? I really did not know. But I'm excited to learn new things. So yeah, I miss a lot of the stuff I was doing, but I'm also, you have to, I think, be somebody that's seeking intensity. You're like, you want to learn new things. As an entrepreneur, you're a risk-seeking missile. You know, you really are. You're going after sort of things, the unknown. And so that's kind of what I like to do. And I have a history of a little bit of that. So go ahead.
Well, so this was I didn't want to interrupt, but the question I had for you just is perfect what you just said, which was, have you always had this level of risk tolerance? Because you're like seeing these ups and downs, and for myself, experiencing the ups and downs, that I wonder if I have the right risk tolerance profile.
So you're kind of outing me here, right? I'll share this with you. Yes, when I got out of high school, I didn't go right to college. I headed out to San Francisco with like 20 bucks in my pocket. I had no money when I got there. And I ended up becoming a high-rise iron worker, working up on towers in San Francisco. And this was, 40 plus years ago. And we didn't have nets, we weren't tied up, we were climbing and we were hanging steel, and I loved it. I mean, it's because it was the most dangerous thing you could do. And that's what I seek out. So, so there's something there. I know it is. In fact, in my office, I have pictures of me way up 50 floors up in the air in San Francisco on a tower, just free climbing. And I have that in my office to remind me of what I'm doing now and just how far I've moved. But you need to be the kind of person that loves to get out of your comfort zone. If you are in your comfort zone, you are not making progress. And if you're out of your comfort zone, you're probably, who knows what you're doing, but you're hopefully that's how you're going to make progress. You have to be out of your comfort zone. So yeah, the risk profile has to be pretty.
I learned something new about you every time you come and speak. Like, that's pretty cool.
It was, yeah.
And then you went to college after you.
Yeah, I went then.
Near-death experience.
Yeah, and then my very quick history, yeah. So then I went to college, I got into computer science, and then I was in the space program at UC Berkeley, space astrophysics group, worked on the space shuttle, worked on a lot of space stuff like that, rockets, and then wanted to move to Maine. And so Jackson Lab, I thought, well, that's pretty close to space science. So I took classes in molecular biology and got into Jackson and became the director of computational science there. So yeah, so anyway, yeah, so you got to learn that, but there's going to be a lot with that Series C money, you're going to have to learn how to sell your product. You're going to have to begin to grow your sales. You're going to have to start to build credible financial projections, because as you're going from Series Seed to the next step is Series A, that's when you're going to talk to investors who are going to be looking at a $5 million, $8 million dollar investment, and they're going to want to see that you've got that experience. You know how to sell your product. You got projections, and you've got at least a little bit of history to show that that's credible. And then with your Series A, you really have to establish that product market fit. You have to, make sure you have a sales cycle, it's repeatable, you know what you're doing, you have a good leadership team, you're building a commercial team, you're really growing the company. And then you get your support team, like I say, we have, customer support, we have a support desk, all of those things get put in place. HR, we have an HR person, we have finance, we have, a really great board of directors, very engaged. We've got financial controls. We're using a lot of capital. So all of our finances are now managed through GAAP, which is the generally accepted accounting practices, and IFSAR, which is, I think, or ISFR, which is the international version of it. And also very, very high, lot of controls on the finances. Really developing your whole company infrastructure, employee benefits programs, and you start to expand. So that's what you're supposed to accomplish with Series A. And then Series B is like, we're going to pour real serious gas on this and we're going to go to the moon. So that's kind of where we are right now. I have a couple more slides. I don't know how much, got a few more minutes? Okay. Yeah, I have more slides than I'll probably use, but I have a couple slides that I think would be a good way to probably sort of wrap this up, which kind of get you thinking about some of the things that we thought about earlier. So you got to figure out who you are, what you want to do. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? And all of these things, a lot of questions. You won't necessarily know all the answers, but at least you need to know what the questions are. So first, you got to know what your mission is. So in our case, our mission is help get cures to market faster. This is something Julie and I sat down, I mentioned earlier, like, what are we passionate about, And this is really became our mission. You got to boil it down. This is where I come up with that statement. So rather than telling somebody for an hour what we do, this is what we do. Got to have a vision. Now it's 4 years. Put this up last year, and I was looking at it. I said, I can't go back and say this is our 5-year vision again. It's now 4 years. So I think we've achieved we are the leading software in the space. There are some competitors that are coming for us, but right now with SaaS, we're the leaders in the world. We know what our competition is, and our customers are telling us. Doesn't mean that our customers might buy a competitor because our software is extremely sophisticated. Sometimes they say we don't need that, but we're the leaders. But this is also really important because some businesses, like, their vision is really to develop a technology and sell it. Our vision was really to build a company. We have right now 50 people working in our company, about 30 employees and 20 plus contractors. So there's about 50 people every day working in our company. And that was our vision, or is our vision, but I know some people, the vision is just keep it small, or maybe it's a lifestyle business. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to know what that is so that you're heading in that direction. Know your market. These are the 5 market segments that we're in, and we're not trying to go anywhere else. It's the pharmaceutical companies, contract research organizations, biotechs, academic, and private nonprofit research organizations. And we have really good customers in all of those market segments right now. Values. You got to have really good I believe you got to have good values. You're not going to build a company with a toxic culture or a culture that doesn't bring people together. So I mentioned earlier, you got to get a really good team. You got to get the right people on the bus. You got to get the wrong people on the bus, but the right people on the bus with a great company culture, with good values. And I really believe strongly in diversity, equity, and inclusion, trying to bring different people in, different perspectives, and getting people to really respect and work with each other. And I always say, take care of yourself, take care of our company, take care of each other, and have respect for the individual. If we stick with that, we'll be a really good team. Figure out how you want the world to view you as. So this is really important. We want our customers to think, oh, Rockstep Solutions, quality, customer experience, user experience is great. That's what we want our customers to think of us as. Keeping focused this is that 3-ring binder, and this is just how we put it together. So I kind of talked about it before, but this is really important. So what are we deeply passionate about? Bringing cures to market, what drives our economic engine, and managing what are we best in the world at. So having that, I think that this concept probably applies to everybody here. If you can get that written down and then try to map all the opportunities that come out to you and say, do we need to either change the binder or do we throw away the opportunity? So you don't get off the rails. So, and this is the last thing I'm gonna go into right now, I think, and that is, how do you measure your company's value to the market? And this is something that is really hard to wrap around. So somebody came to me and said, what is the single number that best reflects the value of our company to our customers? Now, when somebody first said, what's our single most important metric? I said, well, it's revenue. It's actually not. Revenue will flow from your North Star metric. So this is, what is that one number that you can look at and say, this, if I keep an eye on this, it's going to make sure that that our customers see our value, or that we're bringing value to the customer. So for example, Google, everybody knows Google. Google's got metrics all over the place. They got billions of dollars, but there's really one North Star metric that Google looks at. And it's the number of searches per day, because that's how they sell advertising. If they see that number dropping down, they know they got a problem, right? So they have a North Star metric, number of searches per day. Spotify as another example, like, there's a lot of input metrics. So this isn't the only metric that you're looking at, but if you look at Spotify, their North Star metric is the time spent listening to music. They have a lot of input metrics that help make sure that that North Star metric is healthy and growing. The input metrics, bringing users back more often, increased time spent per session, things like that. But ultimately, that's that one number that, they get up and they say, yep, that number's healthy and it's growing.
And that North Star number should correlate between internally in the business and what your investors want to see, or they're different North Stars for those two audiences? Well,
No, this is the North Star metric for your business. This metric, everybody, we have, so it's a really good question, because we have, in fact, the next slide will sort of get to that. So our North Star metric for Rockstep is the number of active users.
Yeah.
We want to see the number of active users on our platform grow. And, it could be, we spent a lot of time on it, and we may even say, well, maybe at some point that's not, maybe we should be measuring something else. Maybe it's the amount of time per user spends on a session or something. But right now, we think it's the number of active users. So within the company, we have a whole bunch of metrics that drive up to that. So at the bottom of it all, we have a quality program. So in fact, tomorrow is our quarterly quality meeting. So we actually have quality reports and things that we produce. And the quality program actually looks at all of the parts of our organization. So our support team, our onboarding, R&D, IT, software verification, product and InfoSec. Its quality program does not look at sales and marketing, commercial team. That's kept separate out of the quality program. But so our quality manager is looking at each department and looking at what metrics do those departments need to be looking at in order to drive up to help support our North Star metric. And then at the application level, this is our big product, what are the metrics that we need to, these metrics help drive these metrics, the uptime, the security, the functionality, bug load, performance. All of those things are super important as well to our sales team. Our sales team is selling the product, renewals, expansions, and logos, and those metrics obviously are really important because that increases the number of users. Now, so we sort of built this pyramid and we're focused on that. And so tomorrow we have our quality meeting. We'll be going through our metrics, actually at our first metrics meeting today. And we look at each department's metrics, and then we try to figure out how do those metrics actually, how do we, follow those metrics and try to make sure that they're driving really to the new logos, to the number of active users. So I think that's probably a good place to leave it. I think this is really an important thing though to think about, and that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you.
All right. You got a question?
Yeah, the answer is none of these, but I was wondering which of these here, and this kind of connects to another session we had previously, which was basically about key metrics, and the idea there was kind of about a North Star metric, but like kind of you define which one's your North Star metric, and one of the discussions we had there was, well, why is it that you are in business? So I'm wondering which one of these over here are the ones up there for active use, number of active users, connects to what you showed us earlier about why you're in business, which is to bring cures to market.
Yeah. So how does this actually drive our mission?
Mhm.
Mission is so important. I
Right,
have to say that.
yeah,
100%. You have to have a mission statement and let it guide you. And you
Yeah.
guys are such a good example of that.
that's why you get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a really good question, and obviously, the number of active users means that we're bringing value to the market, which hopefully is driving our mission, but I don't know how to measure
But yeah,
that. Haven't
it's
thought
a
about,
tough thing to measure,
right,
it's how long it would have taken if you weren't there, right?
right.
We're a SaaS solution as well, and I like the active user one, and I think I totally get it. We have something similar in that it's contributions to the platform, so we have very discrete things that are being put in the SaaS solution. So we like to see, by companies, basically, how much they're actively using the platform to sort of drive their missions forward.
Yeah.
But it's something very similar.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when we were first trying to figure out what's our North Star metric, we had a lot of different ideas. But we've had customers that actually bought our product, paid for it, and never adopted it. And it's not a cheap. Yeah, it's 30, this customer paid, I think this was a couple of years ago, they paid $40,000, and we failed. So that was one of the things that we trained them, but we didn't follow up. And so when I look back at it, we said, well, we lost however many active users we could have had on the platform. What could we have done differently, and we could have done better training, better outreach, better, so we actually we have an account management program now, and account managers reach out more and make sure that they're using it and, providing the support.
We actually won't do trials until they've taken training, and it's training and specification, so they can then take that anywhere they want.
Yeah.
We're not gonna bother with a trial with them until they understand the specification that they're trying to adopt.
Yeah, you gotta find the right, because a lot of times they'll just get lost, or they won't use it, they won't like it, you gotta train them. Yep, we won't let people touch we don't let anybody touch our product until they've been trained, at least to some extent, yeah.
What is the sales cycle for that?
The sales cycle is correlated with the deal size. So for smaller deals, the sales cycle is really short. For bigger deals, the sales cycle is really long. So for example, $3.7 million deal that we're closing now, the sales cycle is just about a year.
Wow.
Yep. And that's actually pretty short for that size deal.
Mhm.
The longest sales cycle I've had was probably about 6 years. And it was because obviously I was talking to the company, we didn't really have a product that they could use, but we had breakfast, and then we talked to them, we kept the conversation going, we visited them at their site, and eventually they bought on. But I think so the big deals is about probably 12 to 18 months. For a small deal, it's gonna be about 6 weeks, and for a mid-sized deal, let's say $100,000 deal, it's gonna be 3 to 4 months.
What would you say your close rate is? Because you're the only player that does what you do.
Right. It's really trying to pick that up. So we've got about 60 customers right now. With the market having tanked so much last year, it's really hard the rate last year was low. Like we only closed a handful of 6 deals last year, 7 deals last year. So we're really hoping to see that pick up. And a lot of what we're finding as well, so is expansions are, so we we have what's called churn, right? So churn is, you have a certain amount of customers, you lose a certain amount. We have net negative churn because we're expanding more. So we're just doing a global expansion at 2 of our pharmaceutical companies. So even though they're not new deals, they're actually going into an expansion mode. So that's actually speeds it up quite a lot. Yep.
I was just curious, how do you know that you have found a product market fit? Whether that would be a threshold you identified?
I think it's when you have, multiple customers using your product. And they're, you're getting that feedback from the customer that this is unique, this is helping us, so I don't know. I don't know if I have a really good answer for it. When we first went into the market, I knew the market for academia. And we're trying to get into the, commercial market, right? And we brought them the product and they said, yeah, it kind of does, it does some stuff that we're interested in, but we could never use it because it doesn't do all of these other things. And so that's when Julie pulled together this team and said, well, we're gonna have to spend a long time working on it. And so it was partly the bringing a team together to help us from industry. So in that team, there was Novartis, which is a tier 1 pharma, and then a large public biotech out in San Francisco Bay Area, and UCSF. So we wanted to include academia so that we didn't exclude academia from the product. So, and then after that, like 3 to 4 years of building and refining, and we released it and people started nodding their head this way. That's when I felt like we knew the market fit. I will say that we're not done developing by any means. In fact, we're expanding our market right now. We have a big effort working with a tier 1 CRO to expand our market into a part of a regulated market area that we're not in right now. So it's constantly trying to build and get more functionality. And in Europe, our product market fit isn't as good as it is here because Europe has different regulatory requirements. So right now, our big work in the pharmaceutical company in Europe is really building out some of the requirements so that they can actually meet the animal welfare requirements there. So I don't know if we ever really get product market fit, it's like you're constantly working on, and the market's constantly changing. So like I say, we were in this biotech market and it looked really good and everybody was, it was great product market fit. And then the biotech market collapsed and big pharma says, yes, this is great, but you need to do this and this and this. And it's, so we have a very big development team.
And if I can ask another
Yeah.
question, the trifecta, right, of Novartis, the biotech company, UCSF, how are those, what was that arrangement or relationship? Are these people being compensated, or was this like is this some other type of?
There was,
arrangement of getting these folks?
yes, there was some compensation there. It was nowhere near compensating. We were working with a lot of the SBIR funds at that point. So we were still meeting the objectives of the SBIR grants. The nice thing about the grant money is you have objectives and it's not a contract. You don't have to meet very specific things. You have to meet the overall objectives of the grant. So we're able to use the grant money. UCSF put in some money. The biotech put in some money, and Novartis sort of promised us that if we did this, that they would, do a proof of concept and buy the product. So they didn't put in money till we got farther along, but they, all of them, but the amount of compensation was small compared to the effort.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right now we're working, but you do want to there will always be a trade-off when somebody's paying you to build a product and you keep the IP. So we're negotiating that right now. We have probably about $1.7 million worth of work for a company in Europe that they want us to do. And they're probably gonna pay us about 1 million of that. And so, I mean, 1.7 million, there's a margin on that, so, but we gotta figure out how to. But they'll license the product and they'll use the product, so we'll get a lot of money from the licensing, but then they want some cost concessions on, I mean, that's what we're negotiating right now. It's a really, but, they will pay for it. All right,
Bye.
any questions online? Any hands up out there?
Jenna, Rob, Jessica, anything you guys have?
Thank you. I'm just listening. I'm overwhelmed with how big companies can get and how much work it is.
It's not for the faint of heart,
No,
it just depends on your vision. If your vision is big, then it's gonna be big. If your vision's small, then that's, one important thing too, if you think small, you will be small. If you think big, doesn't mean you're gonna get there, but at least you have the space to realize, to actualize what you wanna do, but if you think small, you will be small.
Yeah, question. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Richard. So, what necessitated your having a subsidiary in Europe? Is it market size, or you had a potential client already that made you open an office in the UK?
That's a really good question. So one of our investors is in Europe and has a company in Europe and had sold a lot of software in Europe and in this space. And he was very much encouraging us to move into the European market. So that's what inspired us to do it. And he had some contacts over there. So that's where the conversation got started. I would not have done it had he not been pushing it. And then what we found is that the big pharma, the one that we're closing now, they wouldn't work with us if we weren't in their time zone. Now, to be honest with you, they don't know that we're barely in their time zone. Julie gets on a plane and goes over there and we get there, but the idea is we have now, we are in their time zone and we will open support, we will hire support there. We will hire support there, and that's, in the plans for this year.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other? All right, well, one more. Cool.
I just really curious so you talk about the vision of the company. What does success look like for you personally? Is it just enjoying this ride for as long as possible, or an exit in a certain number of years?
That's a really good question too. So I'm 66 years old or 65 years old now. So exit is definitely, something that I'm expecting soon, not this year, but we will exit, and we will exit probably in the next couple of years, something like that. But I don't know. I've actually been telling my wife that for like 6 years now. So, yeah. So I don't know, but the goal is to exit. The ride is really fun and it's stressful, and but at some point, you want to get something out of it. Personally, I don't need a massive check in my back pocket. The ride, the journey is a lot of the experience. Your life is your experience, and this experience has been amazing. And, I do expect that, I'll get something out of it, but that's the balance. Like how long do you want to take this? How far do you want to take this? I expect we'll exit in a couple of years.
Did investors expect you to have an exit strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things they always ask, what's your exit strategy? It depends on the kind of investor. So this is a whole, a whole topic in itself, right? There's different kinds of investors. You have angel investors, which are just investing money. They want to make some profit out of it. They like small amounts of money. Where we are right now, we have strategic investors. Now, strategic investors usually aren't looking at the money so much. They're looking at the alignment of your business with their business. And the money's important, but they're not pushing you to exit. Venture capital typically has a mission to make profit, 5x, 10x on their investors. Then there's private equity has a similar thing. So there's different kinds of investors. Venture capital often will work with a company more closely. Private equity has a bad reputation or I don't know if bad reputation, but a really aggressive reputation. So when you're raising capital, you want to understand the different kinds of investors. We have a big strategic investor, which is kind of nice because they're interested in what we do strategically. But they pretty much all want to know what your exit strategy is going to be.
What was the role of it? Do you, any debt in your capital stack, early on, and if so, what did that look like?
Debt?
Yeah.
Yeah, MTI, development loan,
Okay, yeah.
paying that off right now, actually.
Anything else from like a financial institution or a revolving loan?
No, just convertible debt, but that just converts to equity when you close around. No, yep. That's can be rough because it sits on your books and, the other thing about debt is they want collateral. And as a SaaS company, only collateral is my house. Because you don't really have a lot. I got this laptop, you can confiscate that. So yeah, no, they do. Yeah, I've thought, I've looked into that. Really, debt is not a good option.
So if you're planning on exiting 2-3 years, like what are you doing to set up your leadership team, your employees and staff, like
Yeah.
for the long term? Because as a SaaS company, even then, you can't just hand it off, right?
No, it's a good question. So this is just a slide of our leadership team, so we have a well-structured leadership team. I'm not gonna go through all these people, but there is a really well-formed team. Our company's structured like this. This is a very high-level structure of our company. Our company's well-structured. If the CEO position, my position specifically, would be most easy to replace, because I do legal, finance, quality, HR, things like that, which are pretty standard. On this side here, this is Julie's side. She runs the operations of the company. And so she's much more deeply involved with the product and all of the IT and the customer experience. So she's really, this side is harder to replace. In an exit, you both get key man locked most likely. And she would probably stay with the company longer than me. She's younger than me. But yeah, no, that's true. We have our team is that they buy the team, and that's, some of the acquisitions are really, really done really poorly and the teams it doesn't work well.
How much changeover have you had with your board of directors, if at all?
I don't think we've had any. Just looking, this board is, it's a really good board. These are all voting board members. We have, observers on our board and, as well from some of our investors, but,
Are you the only interested party on your board of directors?
no, Julie
Julie as well.
and I are both, the founders, yeah.
How many on the advisors?
We got 6 advisors and the advisors came in really early, really important that's another thing, I didn't talk about, but we needed people that could help guide us in the industry, had experience. And so these people here have really been essential. We still meet around quarterly, maybe 3 times a year sometimes, but, with our advisors and kind of go over where we are, but they actually helped us get into a lot of deals.
And are they equity advisors?
Small amount of equity. Yeah, this is where like, that's the only thing you gotta give them, right? You don't have, you're not gonna pay them, and so you give them a small piece of, and there's some sort of standard formulas for how much, it's a small amount, but they're not, they get a little buy or a little payoff at the end. All right,
Well, as always, this was excellent.
yeah, thank you. It's a
Thank you so much.
pleasure to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
You have to say what's up, Sabrina? Or no?
Yeah.
I thought she had it.
I do. Thank you to our audience for joining us. This conversation has been sponsored and recorded. And thank you to our sponsors, the Herald Alpine Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, Valley Beverage, and Bruce for working in innovation space. And we'll see you next.